Hello and welcome everybody to a little piece our Newgate team has put together on our first season sire, Tassort. This is the background story, the origin story of how Tassort, of course, came to be at Newgate in his first season in 2020. And who better to tell the story than the three people, I'd say, most responsible for him now residing at Newgate, and that being, of course, Henry Field, the Managing Director of Newgate Farm, Bryan Carlson, General Manager of Emirates Park, and from the Ratings Bureau, Mr. Daniel O'Sullivan, the highly respected form analyst. Guys, thanks very much for joining me for this discussion. And before we get stuck into the Tassort story, let's have a quick look at his pre-Christmas 2-year-old race debut, where Tassort, of course, announced himself to the world.
They're all set now and they're racing. Jonah's going to settle last and Space Boy given a real dig out of the gates to lead, and Cardiff will come across and sit in second. Then Tassort, and Jonah staying one off the fence, a bit keen at the rear of the field. Tassort needs a bit of room and Jonah getting to the outside. 350 out, Space Boy asked to kick and does so. Space Boy in front. Tassort is pushing off the fence now. It barged its way into the clear. Tassort joins Space Boy now, and Tassort starts to draw clear from Space Boy, who's all out now. Jonah running on, but Tassort, great debut. Tassort rips away to win it. Space Boy just clung on to second, a half head in front of Jonah, and Cardiff just didn't see out the trip after being bumped at the 300. Tassort, nice performance. Called by Brazen Bow.
Well done, James. Great result for the whole Godolphin team. He's pretty handy.
Yeah, he's a beautiful colt. He's by Brazen Bow, and he's just continued to do everything right. And what we love most about him is the way he's improved over the last 6 weeks. But he's ready-made. I think you saw him in the parade before the race, and there's improvement to come. So we've certainly got to be pretty excited about him.
I think everyone thought it was a good race on paper. He's actually won by 5 lengths. It's a proper debut.
Like I said, you know, he's a Brazen Bow colt, the first crop of that exciting young stallion, and it's good to have arguably one of the more exciting 2-year-olds around now. There's no doubt this race had a lot of build-up. There's a fair bit of hype about it in the lead-up. Impressive triallers, one with race experience, a few there that have been the best 2-year-olds some trainers have ever trained, and he's been impressive drawing away.
Do you guys have many better 2-year-olds back home than this guy?
Look, we've got a lovely bunch of young horses. We took a few to the barriers there at the course proper at Warwick Farm yesterday, and they look lovely in their action. We've got some nice other younger horses coming through, but given that's the bulk of our stable, we're about 2- and 3-year-olds. It's pretty exciting to have a horse like him that can provide us somewhat of a benchmark for the rest of our crop.
Good colt, well done.
Thank you.
James Cummings, well done to all involved here. It's been 5 1/4 lengths by a short head. He smashed them. He said before, you breeding buffs will know that this is a Stearns half-brother or Lise's half-brother. She's an amazing mare, Ezra Weir. Never saw the best of her on the racetrack. Time of a minute, 03.88, new race record, and 34.21. Gets home. Serious colt, this fellow, as he comes back. James McDonald for James Cummings, and better races await.
Okay, well done, James. Well, we were pretty excited about that, but I'm sure you were.
Yeah, it felt terrific. He did a wonderful job. The horse, he was a little bit warm before the start, but as soon as he walked in the stalls, he was the ultimate professional from there on. He travelled really well and behind the speed. When the gaps presented itself, there was no hesitation. He was straight to the mark and ran as straight as a gun barrel. So very impressive debut. The world's his oyster because he's got so much upside, but his turn of foot's just instant. He's a very good colt.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very nice.
Well done.
All right, well, some strong statements there from not only Tassort, but James Cummings and James McDonald too. Bryan, I think we'll start with you, mate, given you were the first person, I suppose, on the scent with Tassort. An amazing story, mate, to think, you know, he raced in Godolphin Blue and now stands at Newgate. I get a ton of people asking me all the time, you know, how did it happen? How did it all play out? You know, mate, you were the sort of first person on the scene, I suppose. Tell us about, mate, when he first came onto your radar and then how things evolved from there. When did you realise that he could be bought and how did that all play out?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. He was a horse that we've always liked from the start, even from, you know, his debut run. Brazen Bow is a stallion that I think is the next up-and-coming stallion. And then probably earlier in the year, I was talking to Trevor Lobb, and we thought we never thought we'd get him. We thought it was a really 50-50 chance. And Trevor brokered the deal with Godolphin, and, you know, once I knew I had him, I was wrapped, you know, because he's such a talented horse, outstanding looking horse, and Henry and I association goes a fair way back. We worked together in Kentucky, and I was talking to him one day, and it was just by coincidence found out that he'd been sold, and I just happened to say that I've just acquired him. So it was just more of a coincidence that it came about. But look, I think it's worked out really well, and you know, you couldn't be more excited about this horse. He had tremendous ability. He's a great type, and you know, we're going to give him everything basically.
So Bryan, the deal's done. You pick up the phone, Henry Field, Newgate Farm. Age, talk us through that first phone call, mate, and then your process after that to then decide whether or not we'd stand Tassort at Newgate.
Yeah, well, to be frank, Bruce, Tassort obviously is was a horse that only had 2 starts, so it's a leap of faith standing such a horse. It's we put a lot of energy, effort, expertise, and expense into standing a stallion. So we really want to only stand horses that we really feel hit the bullseye. But Tassort, in my mind, was a very rare animal. I remember leaving the racetrack that day when he won the Golden Gift, and it was a spine-tingling performance. The son of Brazen Bow, his performance was off the Richter scale to the eye. Daniel backed it up with extraordinary figures in his ratings, and obviously James Cummings and James McDonald thought the world of the horse, and couldn't have been more impressed by his performance. I love the fact that he's out of a blue hen mare. Statistically, there's virtually you count on one hand the amount of mares that have produced 3 elite performers on the racetrack, and by one of Australia's most exciting young stallions in Brazen Bow, who's tracking extraordinarily well compared to his own side, I'm Invincible, from a statesman's and group winners to runners' perspective. All those things made me very excited about acquiring the horse and joint venturing on the horse with Emirates Park.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of trying to get context on those performances, I mean, we watch a lot of races. There's lots of visually appealing races, but I know from a Newgate perspective, Daniel O'Sullivan's a person that we work very closely with and have a good association with. Daniel, of course, pointed us in the right direction of Extreme Choice after his second start, and he went on to win the Blue Diamond Moir Stakes for us. Daniel, I know your analysis was a big part of us having the confidence to go after Tassort. Tell us, or tell the viewers, if you don't mind, what you said to Henry and our team with regard to Tassort and his ability.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. I mean, look, I love analysing the 2-year-old races, especially early in the season, because the media and really the industry at large, all of us, are very quick to, I guess, tout a horse as highly promising or a future star when they're visually impressive. The reality is that most horses aren't as good as they're given credit for, especially in their first couple of starts. But Tassort was well and truly the exception to that rule. I analyse over 15,000 races a year in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong. I spend hours doing it every day as part of my work with the specific intent to try and understand the real merit in horse performances. Over doing that now for more than 15 years, I've got some really strong benchmarks established that help to line horses up, especially what they do early in their career with a view to what they might do later on. And there's no doubt that when it came to Tassort, he stacked up, all the benchmarks stacked up, being as impressive as he was visually and as the performance of a top-class horse. To give you an idea, on my rating scale, he ran 103. It's extremely rare for a 2-year-old to do that at any stage in the season, let alone on debut. To draw a comparison, Capitalist ran 102 on debut and went on to win a slipper. Esther Jab, she ran 102 and went on to win a slipper. Extreme Choice ran 103. As you just mentioned, won a Blue Diamond and a Moya Stakes. Two of those three were not in stakes races, which I think is important. But if they run the figures that say they're top class, it invariably holds up, and that's definitely what Tassort did.
That I suppose just gave you a lot of extra confidence, H. I mean, you had the big pedigree, he had the dominant performance. Bryan, a lot of breeders still working out their matings. Obviously, the broodmare sales were so late this season that a lot of people are just sitting down now to just finalise what mare goes to which stallion. Mate, talk us through Tassort on type and on pedigree and on profile, so that you can help breeders that are using him send the right mare, A, and B, just give us an insight into what your mares are at Emirates Park that might be visiting him this season.
So I think any breeder or client that hasn't seen him needs to go look at him. It'd be probably one of the nicest stallions going to stud this year. He's a lot more refined, a lot of the Exceed and Excel coming through in him. And I think the second thing you need to ask any stud master, wherever you're booking your mare this year, who's behind the horse, who's actually committing the mares. And I think with this horse, as Henry mentioned before, we do have those good clients with good mares. You know what I mean? This stallion's not just going to get numbers; he's going to get quality. And so, you know, when Emirates and Hussein and Nasser, when we all sat down and done our matings, we sort of picked out 20 good mares to go to him.
I must say, Brucey, with the parades we've had here, it's been terrific. I had my good friend James Bester here looking at the few of the mares, and he walked in and he said, "That's not Tassort, that's Assort." And I thought, Jimmy, I'll use that in the open day. That's a bit of fodder for us. But you know, terrific judges have come in. Katrina and Royston Murphy, and you know, as I said, a lot of the smart people around the industry have loved him when they saw him as much as we did. Bryan gave a terrific description of the horse, but you know, he's a high quality horse. We had James Harron here the other day who thought he's a lovely horse, and you know, all the guys whose opinions matter, you know, have a view in their mind that he's a terrific looking horse, and great jowl, great quality, medium size, very athletic. He's a damn fine looking horse.
I think looking at Tassort, he's going to have precocious early horses, and that's the type of mare we've sent to him. Not a single doubt mares, Snitzel mares, but also good black type mares like Najum. You know, she was a multiple Group 3 winner. I bought a mare in America called Red Lodge, who's by Midshipman, and I think Midshipman might be one of the leading 2-year-old size in America. You know, so the mares that are going to him are top class. They're Magic Moons and Easter quality mares, and you know, I think he'll get every chance.
Yeah, it's such a good point you make that about his 2-year-old form. I mean, it was that race which we've all seen was pre-Christmas, and I think that's the most interesting thing about him is like he's from this mouth-watering pedigree. He's obviously a half to Elite Say and a Stern, who were phenomenal 3-year-olds, and obviously Elite Say a 4-year-old as well. This horse was pre-Christmas. He looks very much like that type-wise compared to those two horses, doesn't he, Bryan? He's just a lovely medium size, beautifully balanced, lots of quality, athletic. He's pretty much a horse that physically, for those breeders that don't get to see him, is going to suit most mares. And I think that's a big deal. Daniel, would you say that too? I mean, the most exciting thing about this horse was he defied his whole pedigree, right? He did this all pre-Christmas where the rest of his page hadn't raced pre-Christmas, never mind ran a 103.
Yeah, I'd agree entirely, Bruce. I mean, for a horse like him, as you said, Elise and Stern were such dynamic 3-year-olds. For him to do what he did as a 2-year-old and to think that it was highly likely that he was going to be better as a 3-year-old, I think well and truly puts him in a basket of potentially very, very special horses. Even beyond the numbers, you mentioned the 103 there. I mean, he showed the 3 key things that I always look for when I'm trying to identify a top-class horse. That is, he was outstanding on the clock, overall time and sectionally for 2-year-olds. He showed an excellent acceleration when he was asked, and perhaps the biggest one that I'm really keen on seeing, especially in young horses, is that he was so strong through the line, which is always a real sign of substance and an indication that horses have got more to offer. So I think horses that have got all those three traits invariably rise to the top, and he demonstrated them at his first start from a family that suggests they're going to be better as 3-year-olds. So that was why I was more than happy to lend my opinion to him being a pretty special horse.
And Daniel, a lot of the first season stallions this year are all from that same crop of Tassort's racing age. Can you just put them into context with the likes of those colts for us, please?
Yeah, look, it's really interesting, Bruce. As I mentioned, Tassort 103 on debut, all the time sectionals, acceleration, leg strength to back that up. Later in the autumn, we had Microphone won the Group 1 size in the 102, slightly below. Castelvecchio won the Group 1 Champagne also in a 102. So Tassort was higher rated than both of those. Exceedance, his 2-year-old Deeds Tassort was definitely better on 2-year-old figures than what we saw from Exceedance. Even if I look at the Golden Slipper, I mean, Kimichi's a filly, but she only ran 103.3 to win the Slipper, which is barely a head better than Tassort. So even if you look later on in the season, it's a shame we didn't see him then, but there's no doubt that what he did there on debut measured up and even superior to the figures that those other colts were running later on in the autumn.
Yeah, I think that sums it up beautifully. Not only did the clock suggest that Tassort was something special, when you look at his female family, you could say to yourself, wow, he was destined to be special. And now Brazen Beau, I mean, he's just kicking goal after goal, and North Pacific, of course, a great, a great indication or a great example of that on the weekend.
I think Brazen Beau has proven to be one of Australia's top young stallions, and I know that he doesn't get big numbers. I know that he gets have to limit his book, but certainly all indications that he's a hell of a young stallion. North Pacific was dominant on Saturday, and I must say his performance on Saturday reminded me very much, gave me the same spine tingle as Tassort's did at his first start in the Golden Gift. So I think it's a sire line and a sire that there's going to be a lot more to look forward to.
100%. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me. That is a little insight for you all into the background of how Tassort came to stand at Newgate this season. To all the breeders using him, thank you so much for your support. We're really excited about this horse, and as you can see, he's standing here for good reason. We've got a lot of resources in behind him, along with Emirates Park and all the breeding right holders. So we're really excited about his future, obviously, and we're going to we're determined to give him the very best start. For those of you that still have interest in Tassort and maybe haven't booked him yet, please feel free to contact our nominations team. Henry, Daniel, Bryan, thank you so much for your time, guys. Take care and stay safe.